Hi everybody, good afternoon. It's time for episode 59 of the Renny Show. Still can't quite believe that. How are you, Jenny, on this festive day?
Well, it's I literally, as you can see, I am festived up in that I have just uh come in the door from a long journey on the M1, lots of
Ooh.
roads from what I've been seeing my dad, and so I'm feeling quite festive because they were all the staff in my dad's residential care home were all wearing their Christmas jumpers and the decorations are all up,
Oh, nice.
and it's lovely. So I'm feeling very festive and I haven't taken my scarf off yet because it's a little bit chilly. You know, when you've just been sitting in a really hot car and then you
Yeah.
get out and you think, oh, it's a bit chilly in my house. The heating's not on yet.
Well, it's a very nice festive Christmas pudding scarf. I like it. Very good. I've got my Christmas tree earrings. Had to give a bit of a nod to the
Already.
fact it's nearly Christmas. So I figured before we get started, we probably ought to say a couple of things about our podcast strategy day that we had on Monday. So if the observant amongst you will have seen a very short teaser video that we did on the day. Because we were very excited about some changes that we're making about what we do with the Renny Show. So maybe it's time, should we give them a bit of a sneak peek
Give them a
into...
heads up, couldn't we? A sneaky
Oh, good,
peek into
yeah.
some of our inner workings.
Yeah. The chaos behind this wonderful serene thing, the display that you see every 2 weeks from us. So yeah, we've decided, haven't we? Well, I think one of the biggest decisions we've probably made is that we're going to do weekly rather than fortnightly, which is quite a big change for us, isn't it?
It
But
is.
it's very exciting because now that we live closer in geographically, it means we can get together and record together. So I think it'll be from the February shows that we're going to have podcast recording days, aren't we? Where we get together and record them, so you can see us in the same room, which will be a nice treat. And we've also decided to do a lot more around themed episodes as well, haven't we? So I think, did we say every other?
We said yes, every other week, so fortnightly. Some things don't change. Every other week we will have a themed show, and we decided that we do curate our guests,
Yeah.
and we would continue to create our guests to bring you people that who are aligned with our themes,
Yeah.
so that we get continuity and interesting. We always have fabulous guests, but we have been, I say, we have been guestless for a little while we
Yes.
were deciding what we were doing going forward. So that is something, and also we talked about the Renny Road show, which
Yeah.
is quite a long way in advance because it'll be in the summer. But we are looking to do the shows live in a cafe, or a cafe or somewhere, a co-working space near you. So if you would like the Renny Road show to come to your area, then now is the time, and we'll be putting some more posts out about that, but
Yeah.
now is the time to say, oh, we'd love you to come to Birmingham, we'd love you to come to wherever it is, and we will do our best to accommodate people who want to come and see us live. So there are tasty morsels. I think that's a good start, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the only other change is that we're going to get to a point where we stop broadcasting live. We will still record as live, so you'll still get the unedited, unfiltered version of us as you're used to. But we're going to get together once a month, aren't we, and record our episodes so that we've got a bit more content in the bank, so to speak. So yeah, lots of exciting things coming for 2026, and keep an eye out for all the different information that comes out in our posts and about guests and all sorts of things and about the roadshow. So yeah, lots to come. Okay, right. So the first question I've got for you today, Jenny, and there's a couple of reasons for asking this one. So first of all, You had a speaking engagement very recently at Succeed with Andrea Rainsford, I believe.
Yes, yes, yes.
And I also went to a speaker event yesterday where I was in the audience for 3 fantastic women founder speakers. And one of the things that came up yesterday from one of the speakers, I was asked to give some feedback on one of the speakers who I know quite well. And it was around things like nerves and how you present yourself. Do you have a script? Do you not? Do you practice? Do you not? All sorts of different things. So I just wondered, from your personal experience, particularly perhaps the most recent one, what top tips do you have for public speaking?
Oh, this is a goodie. So, my first top tip is, well, I suppose it's a preference. I never have a script
Yeah,
because that's not how I work. My brain doesn't work like that, so I don't have a script. And the rare occasions where I have tried to have a script, I've become a bumbling fool because that's not how I do it naturally. So I think my first top tip is decide what works for you. There are many different ways. So some people have a script, some people have what I call nudges.
yeah,
So if I use slides, then those slides are my nudges.
yeah,
They keep me on track. So decide what works for you and stick to it. The second tip is definitely rehearse, 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 and rehearse. Rehearse it so that you can whether you do it in the mirror, whether you record yourself on your phone doing it, whether you however you do it, watch yourself back. It's excruciating.
yeah,
It's excruciating to watch yourself back or to listen to yourself back, but what it does do is it helps you learn the flow. It helps you measure the kind of tone of what you're saying when you're saying it. And it also means that the cardinal sin for me, one of the cardinal sins, um, is not finishing on time. So
yeah,
when you rehearse it, uh, you get to know where you've got a bit of wiggle room, where you haven't. And I also know that when you're nervous, and I'm as nervous as anybody else, is that you tend to talk much quicker and you talk faster.
yeah,
So actually, when you've rehearsed it, and you know what you're going to say, you get into that rhythm and it's much easier to calm yourself. So that rhythm for me is part of what keeps me calm. So it's breathing. And if I can, you can always hear when you're nervous because your voice goes up here. So
yeah,
it's like speaking, speak from your heart, always speak from your heart, but it's that lower, slightly slower projection, so that you can speak slowly and clearly, and actually know that you've so rehearsing, do it a million times, and there will, even if you rehearse it, there will be times when you think, oh damn, I missed that bit.
yeah,
The good thing is nobody knows what you missed because only you know
exactly.
what you've missed. I
Yeah,
I deliver a similar talk, so I might have done the same talk more than once, but it's never the same because I
yeah,
don't have a script. And I tell different stories because I depends what mood I'm in.
yeah,
And it
yeah,
depends on the audience and it depends on the interaction. So it changes. So yes, um, preparation is everything. Always prepare, give yourself time, learn it however you learn, practice it. And I think the final tip is around, um, it's normal to be nervous,
yes, absolutely.
because it shows that you care. If you weren't nervous, then I would suggest that maybe it doesn't matter. So
Yeah,
actually, I think nervous, I like nerve sighted. I
yeah,
love nerve sighted is a great word, isn't it?
yeah,
Um, so I love the idea. I love presenting. I love being on stage. I love talking with the audience. And um, in terms of nerves, it's about breathing, controlling your breathing. So
yeah,
doing that before you go on, and just centering yourself, just knowing that you've got this, it's fine. Most of the times when we present, the audience are kind of predisposed to listening.
Yeah.
They're on your side. Nobody is intending to, make you feel awful on purpose. So I think people are generally with you, aren't they? So
Yeah,
that's to
definitely.
remember.
Yeah, I think
Um,
that's a really important thing to remember, that because you feel really, really nervous, but actually the people that are listening, they want you to do well. They're willing you
yeah,
on to be successful at what you're going to say. And it's interesting what you said about not having a script, because I was taught, I suppose, or encouraged, maybe it was personality driven, but when I was in the Air Force, I was encouraged to do things a certain way, and I would always have some kind of script, and it would become a crutch to lean on, something to depend on. Um, the problem comes though when you forget where you are, and then you're searching on your script to find the right place, and the pressure that can bring is horrendous. And when I first started speaking at networking meetings after I'd left the Air Force, it didn't even occur to me to not have a script, because, well, that's just how you do it, isn't it? You write a script and then you sort of, I practiced it lots. So there were big parts of it that I knew off by heart and I could just talk about, but I had the full script in front of me. And of course, I do think that can actually hold you back. And I think one of the top tips I'd give is to remember that you are the expert in what you're talking about. Generally speaking, unless you've been given a topic to talk about that isn't your zone of genius, and that does happen, but generally speaking, if you're telling your story, well, that's definitely your zone of genius, because no one knows it better than you. So again, no one knows if you've missed something or said something wrong or whatever. And again, if you're talking about what you do, chances are that's also your zone of genius. Yes, if you've not been doing it long, you might still have things to learn, of course, but I think we forget. It's so easy to get caught up in the nerves that we forget that we're actually in our zone of genius. So, embrace that, I think. So, yeah. But I mean, I'm sure we could probably talk all day about some of the tips
we
for
could do a
speaking.
whole show on this, couldn't
Yeah,
we? And so my first question is comes from a quote that I saw this morning
okay.
about it was to do with a post around not achieving your potential. The biggest disappointment is when you're not achieving your potential. And I also this week heard that Pantone, the color, the paint colors, Pantone always have a color of the year, and
Oh,
their color of the year for 2026 is a kind of, it's a beige, it's a sort of, it's a not quite white,
okay.
is their color of choice. And the quote that I saw this morning was what I just thought it was wonderful. So the quote I saw this morning was, colors are the wounds of light. And it's
Ooh,
a William Blake quote. So my question is, how does that, when you hear that quote, colors are the wounds of light, what does it make you think of, Rach?
wow. Okay. That's what William Blake, you say. I don't think I've heard that before. Colours of the
Well,
wind.
no, I hadn't either. No, William Blake, colors are the wounds of light. And I thought, obviously, Pantone's color for 2026 is kind of white, beige, off-white, a shade
Yeah,
of white, which I would potentially argue isn't a colour, but there you go.
yeah.
We won't get into that one. But I thought colours are the wounds of light. I thought was just a wonderful quote by William Blake. And I wondered what that conjured up for you.
Well, it conjures up kind of. I envisage almost a wound in the fabric of time, if you know what I mean, kind of in a Doctor Who kind of way, where there's a tear in reality, and you get a burst of light coming through. That's kind of what it makes me think of. But also the fact it's a wound, it's the what's left behind once it's healed. So there's something lovely about the thought that the wound of light is this beautiful array of colours that's left behind. I think it's wonderful. It's brought all sorts of things to mind. I love it.
It was just it's a wonderful quote. That there's the person who posted it is a man called Cliff Kimber, and
Okay.
he has amazing. I don't know if you follow Cliff, but he has
No.
amazing quotes that he finds, and I love his posts. They're full of all sorts of interesting things.
Oh, we'll have to.
And I
I'll note that down. We'll have to
color,
put a link for him.
yes, and color is such a you know, the vibrancy of color. It's such a spectrum, isn't it? So I love that
Yes.
colors are the wounds of light, and it's almost like actually when we're shining, I
Yeah.
talk about brilliance a lot, don't I? When we're
Yeah.
shining, obviously that there are often times where we have been told that we're too bright, we need to
Yeah.
dim down, we need to play small, we need to be smaller, we need to be a bit dimmer, and I'm sure many of our listeners have been in that situation. And that when we're shining at our brightest, and you talked earlier about when we're sharing our story, a lot of people when they're sharing their story are telling a story that was painful. They're sharing an
Yeah.
experience that was challenging, that was difficult. You have shared many stories. We have heard lots of speakers
Yeah.
over the the decades that we've been listening to people talk
Yeah.
about really challenging times, and the color that they bring to that experience is
Yeah.
actually really important. And it's something those colors and the vibrancy of that experience is really important. And I just thought it was a wonderful quote.
Yeah. It really
A
is.
bit of a random question there, but when something really grabs you, and I thought, oh, I love that. I'm
Yeah.
not sure.
No, that's.
I'm not sure that I understand everything about it, but I just thought it was lovely. So I thought I'd ask you what, and you conjured up such a fabulous one with Doctor Who. Um, uh, Tom Baker. No, he had a
Yeah.
stripy scarf, didn't he?
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, that wondrous that we are as human beings such a spectrum, or we are
Yeah.
the full spectrum of our experiences, aren't we? And
Yeah.
some of those experiences can be quite dark,
Yeah. Yeah.
but in order to shine, we need dark and light.
Yes.
So
Absolutely. Yeah.
that whole spectrum
Yeah.
of light. So I think, yeah, Panettone, I'm not impressed with your
No.
off-white choice
Very
for
boring.
2026. Yeah, it's a bit bland, isn't it?
Yeah.
But maybe they'll come, maybe I'm always curious as to what they might do with it,
Yeah. Absolutely.
what
Absolutely.
we might do with it.
Well, indeed. Oh, great question. Love that. Okay. So my next question is a very, very simple one, and is always very topical at this time of year. Marzipan, yes or no?
Yes.
Oh,
Oh, I love
excellent.
marzipan.
I'm
I
sure we've
love
talked about this
marzipan.
before.
Anything almond. And I suppose it isn't quite as simple because there's obviously bought marzipan, isn't there? Or
Yeah.
do you faff about and make your own? It's not hard to make your own marzipan. It's just a bit of a faff. But of course, we have so much readily available that's been
Yeah.
done for us. It kind of feels like giving yourself an extra task, doesn't it? So
Yeah.
my additional question, are you a yellow marzipan or are you a natural marzipan preferer?
Natural, I think. Yeah. When I, because I'll be honest, I buy it, I don't make it. And it's the natural one. But I mean, for me, anything marzipan is good. I love the what do you call them? Is it petit fours? The little fruit shaped marzipans that you get at Christmas. I still
I've got
remember those from
mold. I
childhood.
can make those, Rachel. So next time I'll bring some. I make them.
Oh,
So I can
amazing! That's
make
very
them.
exciting.
Yeah, I have who knew? And unpacked. I know where they are. It's one of the things because I used to have a long time ago when my children were very small. I used to have a handmade chocolate company. That was my
Oh,
first ever business, and
I
I
didn't. How
ran
did I not know this?
bespoke
Wow!
handmade chocolate company, and I used to make boxes of petit fours.
Wow!
Um, and three-dimensional Christmas trees. They used to take me out. But anyway, so
Very exciting.
things you know.
We could probably do a whole show on that as well. Oh dear. Right, your turn.
So my next question is another probably oft asked question. What was the strangest present that you ever received, or the most unexpected, the strangest Christmas present you ever received? I
Interesting.
didn't want to say worst because it might not have been the worst,
Yeah.
but maybe it was.
The one that springs to mind was actually a birthday present rather than a Christmas present. And I've got a fit. Oh, I don't know. I might have talked about this before. Got a deja vu going on. But I got fire extinguishers, and I was a little shocked. You know, they were given with
I
the
did.
absolute best of intentions to keep us safe in the house. And you know, they've got one in the kitchen, one in the hallway. You know, for the just in case. But I think it was the unexpectedness of it that took me by surprise. I think, yeah. So that was a shock at the time, but you know, very gratefully received because it's a wonderful thing to have in the home. Very
Useful.
important. Yeah, very important.
And that's why I didn't want to say worst, because actually some of the most unexpected or strangest presents
Exactly that.
turn out to be incredibly useful,
Yeah.
but you wouldn't necessarily you wouldn't necessarily have thought of them as a Christmas present.
No. Not initially, but no. How about you?
Well, I was trying to think. I think my mum, and I hope I haven't said this already, my mum bought me, and she did say at the time, this is a bit of a strange Christmas present, but I know how much you love baking. And they are three cooling trays, but they stack on top of each other. So
Right.
when you're doing mince pies and things, it saves you huge amounts of space.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
that's a great
and
idea.
they were that kind of thing. They she said, "Oh, I thought it was a bit pedestrian, but actually, I've kept. I mean, I had them. I received them with gratitude, and I use them all the time.
Yeah.
I love them, and
I'm
they've come
going
in
to have
very,
to
very
hold that
handy.
thought, Jenny. I'm going to have to just disappear very briefly. I'm
Yes,
really sorry, as discussed. Talk amongst yourselves, Jenny. I'm really sorry. I'll be back as soon as I
no,
can.
it's fine. No, so Rachel has got a man who's coming to do her electrics, I think. So she said she can just let him in and then she will return. And we said right at the top of the show that before we came on live, we said, what are the odds? That could have been any time in the afternoon. What are the odds of it happening when we're mid-show, mid-conversation? And we reckoned that the odds were quite high. And of course, the universe has then given us what we talked about. So be careful what you ask for, because you might get it. So yes, so I was talking about my mum's cooling trays, wasn't I? And they have been incredibly useful. They weren't the most exciting or glamorous of Christmas presents, but actually I love them. Um, they are incredibly practical. I use them all the time, and actually, since my mum is no longer with us, every time I use them, I get to think of her And so that's an additional benefit bonus to that present. So it's lovely to have be thinking of her when I'm making my mince pies. And I don't know if people, that sounds like an extra question, which I might sneak in. I don't know if you make your mince pies. Do people make mince pies, or do you just buy them? I have got a little bit lazy just the last few years, and there are so many delicious options for mince pies. I've been buying them instead of making them, but I do quite like making them. And in days of yore, I used to always make my own mincemeat as well, and do everything from scratch. And I had small children, and I worked full time. Um, so I do wonder why I tied myself in such knots. But I used to make my mincemeat very early on, so I think that was probably a bonus. I used to have a big long kitchen table, and friends used to come round, and we used to make this massive amount of mincemeat. And we'd all sit around the table, chucking the bits in and stirring it and putting the brandy in and doing all that thing. It was like a cottage industry, and then everybody would take their share of mincemeat home, and it is beautiful, homemade mincemeat. It is really special, but I have to say I haven't done it recently. So, um, how are people doing with their creations for Christmas? Are you getting? I keep thinking, oh, I've got ages yet, but it isn't actually that long, is it? So I need to get my skates on and get myself organised. And I think it would also be good to know if anybody is in the Nottingham area. One of our friends, Lisa Newport, is doing a Funky Diva workshop on Saturday afternoon. So if you are in the Nottingham area or fancy travelling to the Nottingham area, please get in touch with Lisa Newport, and book yourself on her Funky Diva workshop. It will be hilarious. We had a little taste of it last week at an event that I was at, and Lisa was doing uh, some funky divaing there, and it was incredible. It was very easy, very fun, very fun. That sounds weird, doesn't it? It was a lot of fun, and you're back. I
Oh,
was
I'm
just
back.
talking about Lisa's Funky Diva workshop in Nottingham on Saturday,
Oh yes,
um, and how Lisa had been part of our strategy day
yes.
on whatever day it was, Monday.
Monday. Yeah,
Is
it
it
was an
is it
awesome
just
day.
me, or at this time of the year, I don't know what the day is. I don't know what the date is. It's always later than I think. Um, but anyway, so I was just saying in the space that you left, that if anybody is in the Nottingham area or wants to travel to the Nottingham area, to
Yeah.
get in touch with Lisa, because I'm sure she would be able to squeeze you into the workshop.
Yes, and I will make sure that her details go in the show notes as well, with a link to get in
That
touch
would
with
be
her.
brilliant.
Yeah, cool. So what
Fabulous.
did I miss apart from that? Because you were
I was saying about my mum's
yeah, the cousin.
present from my mum, and I said obviously they were incredibly practical. They weren't, they're a bit pedestrian. They're kind of bits of metal. Um, but actually I love using them. And now
Mm.
she's not here. When I use them, I always think about her. So it's an additional bonus, a benefit, because I can always smile and think of her when I'm using them.
Oh,
So you
that's
didn't miss
awesome.
much. Me
Yeah.
wang me whiffling waffling on.
Awesome. Okay. Well, I'm hoping. So we're having the radiator put back on the kitchen wall, and the guy looked a bit perplexed about some of the stuff. So I'm just hoping that goes without a hitch whilst we carry on talking. So I'll just pretend it's not happening. Um, so my final question, a bit more of a serious one, and I think we've probably with our strategy day and some of the group programs that we're in together and things like that, this is something that's already come up in conversation. But what are you letting go of from 2025?
Oh, what am I letting go of? Um, I think for many people, me included, 2025 has been a tricky year.
Yeah,
I thought 2024 was ultra tricky.
Yeah.
And I was looking forward to 2025 because I felt that I'd had my challenges. I'd had a whole
Yeah.
bunch of challenges in 2024. So I was hoping, maybe expecting that 2025 would be a year of plain sailing, and that
Yeah.
has not been the case. So, although there have been plenty of fabulous things that have happened in 2025, but I say not without its challenges. So, what am I letting go of? I think I'm letting go of extraneous stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think in the online world, in business, in life, it's we can pick up a lot of stuff on the way, can't we? Whether
Yeah.
that's material things, oh, I need one of those, or I must have the latest, whatever it is. And having spent much of this year emptying my parents' house and moving
Yeah.
house myself, I have recognized how much extraneous stuff that we keep. So my promise to myself is that I'm going to be really mindful and really conscious and intentional
Yeah.
about extraneous stuff in 2026, and to see if I can um make sure that I'm not picking up unnecessary stuff,
Yeah.
whether that's other people's nonsense.
Yeah.
She says euphemistically, other people's nonsense, whether it's, I don't, courses that I don't need to, also stuff. We could spend half an hour talking about what stuff is, but yes, that would be my letting go, is extraneous stuff, and I'm going to write it down so I don't forget it, so I
Yes.
can
Good idea.
remind myself. Does does it go in the extraneous stuff bucket, or
Yeah.
is it in there absolutely vital to my well-being and joy in my life? So yes, that's mine. What about you, Rachel?
So, I mean, I'd have to echo what you've said there. Absolutely. Really, the thing for me that I want to let go of from this year is it's kind of similar. It's the way I manage my diary, and some of the my boundaries in terms of what I give to clients and working and things like that are quite good. But I often end up filling my diary with things that don't necessarily take me towards, however you want to term it, towards my goal, towards my North Star,
Where you're going?
towards where I'm going. So I'm going to be much more intentional about the things that I choose to do. And I've definitely got massively better at that over the years. And there are a lot of things I will say no to, but I think this year I have said yes to things that seemed like they would be a good idea because I didn't want to miss out. But actually, they've taken my focus away from actually doing the do in my business. So yeah, it's kind of the same thing. It's extraneous things in my diary, in my version, things that
I think that counts as stuff.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So being more intentional, definitely a good thing. Yeah.
And my final question is it's a question within a question, which was unintentional. So my question is, what is your favorite coaching question? Do you have one? And if you do, what is it?
I mean, that is a really good question. Do I have? Hmm. I don't know. I mean, I'm not sure if I would count it as a favourite, but the something that I guess probably does come up a fair amount is, what lays behind that or underneath it. or those questions, trying to get people to peel back the layers and work out what's really going on. I think that's quite a key question, because it can apply to so many different people in so many different contexts. But I'm not sure if I have what I would describe as a favourite coaching question. Yeah.
I think that's a good question. Maybe I should have said, a common. I suppose it's one that we use a lot, isn't it?
Yeah.
There are questions. There are questions as coaches. Obviously, our job is to ask really good questions. But there are ones that there are ones that I use, that I come back to time and time again.
Yeah, I must admit, I've just got another one jumping into my head of whose voice is that? When someone says something about what's going on for them, whose voice actually is that? That's
yeah. Mine is. Tell me. Can you tell me more about that?
Yeah,
more about that.
Yeah. The curiosity.
It's one of my. Yes, and obviously curiosity is one of my values. And it's just such a great question, and you can ask it in so many different settings, can't you? So I use it when I'm facilitating, I use it when I'm coaching, I use it when I'm having a conversation. If somebody's if somebody started to tell me something, tell me more about that. How would you make that? So that's one of my favorites.
Yeah, that's a good one. I like that one very much. Yeah, that's definitely one I use too. I mean, I guess realistically, a lot of us coaches will all have variations on the same kinds of questions, inevitably. But as with all things like this, we might use them differently, or a different thought might come to mind at a different time based on what a client has said. So it's I think that's one of the things I love about coaching, because there's no formula. You ask what's relevant at the time, and at first I found that quite intimidating, because I'm like, oh, how do I know what the right question is to ask? And the truth, I might not know what the best question is to ask, but if I've got a question that seems relevant, that can't be wrong, And I think the more that you practice, the more hours you spend coaching, you start to learn what works for you, don't you? In the way that you communicate and how you elicit information from people, you just learn what works and what doesn't, I guess. So yeah, fascinating.
Absolutely. And I know when I've been mentoring, new coaches, and they've said, "Oh, can we have a list?"
Yeah.
We have a list of questions, and I was like, you don't need a list, because if you're listening really well if you're listening wholeheartedly to the person who's talking to you, the questions will naturally appear, because out of your curiosity. So actually, you don't need a list. What you need is to really listen, and then it will become, like exactly as you said, it will become obvious what the question is, because you'll either want to know more, or tell me more about that. Whose voice are you hearing when you said that? What does that make you feel? So actually, the questions that we have in our arsenal, we don't need a list, do we? Because
absolutely not. I remember being told when I was training, you have to trust the process. And I think that's what it is. It's trusting that your curiosity will bring out what's needed in that moment. And because I'm someone that historically would have wanted a list of questions, and so I found that challenging at the beginning of my training. But I couldn't imagine going into a coaching session with a list of questions. It would feel wholly wrong, because you don't know what that person's going to bring. So it's all about reacting to that. So yeah. And
also, when you're worrying about the next question, you're not listening, are you? Because you're worrying about what's the right question to ask, whereas actually you don't need to worry about that. So that was a really precious insight I learned early on, and so I thought I would ask you.
Yeah, definitely. I love it. Great question. And hopefully that's taught people a little bit more. Hopefully we teach people a little bit more every time about what coaching is and what's involved and, what goes on behind it. So I hope that was useful. So as ever, folks, that brings us to the end of the show. But please do send us your comments, your questions. And if you want us doing a Renny Show Roadshow near you, then let us know, because we will start making plans. But for now, we will leave it there. We'll be back again on Christmas Eve. Although, spoiler, we're going to pre-record it, because we might be otherwise engaged on Christmas Eve, mightn't we?
I'll have all my grandchildren, so I will probably be, yes, reading stories and making, I don't know, Christmas biscuits. Who knows?
Yeah.
But yes, probably otherwise engaged. But we will record it the day before Christmas Eve, and it will come out live-ish.
Yes, live-ish. As long as it's as live, as we always say, you get us live or as live. We never edit. We don't filter what we're saying. You get the real version of us, and that's what matters most to us. So there we go. So we'll leave it there. We will see you all next time.
Stay inspiring, be brilliant, and have the best 2 weeks.
Bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.